What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Hart. Today, I'll be breaking down this two-game NBA playoff slate here on DraftKings, talking through my favorite early little core plays, as well as who I'm going to be looking to target with the rest of my lineup. All that good stuff in this video, doing a game-by-game breakdown. So make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Do appreciate all the support. If we get 50 likes in this video, that'd be huge. Do really appreciate it. And now let's get into this two-game breakdown. And these games start relatively soon, a little under 4 hours until the first game starts. So make sure you guys realize that and are locking into your guys' tournaments on DraftKings. Recapping yesterday, the win streak finally came to an end on DraftKings. I had Randall, I had Jimmy, I had Gabe Vincent. Yeah, I mean, my lineup was just blown out of water because of the two blowouts that happened yesterday. So that was a little unfortunate. But we did go 2-0 once again on the YouTube picks. So 8-0 the past 2 days on those picks there. So that's been fantastic. Looking to continue that streak after this. So I will have a video out after this for my price pick plays for tonight / today. But yeah, starting off with this first game here, obviously Philly versus Boston starts this early afternoon once again. So make sure, stay tuned with that. But we have Jason Tatum at the top 9-6. I really like Tatum. I've yet to play him in this playoff series going against Philly yet, but he's been fantastic. Obviously, did not shoot the three well that last game, but still went for 27, 10, and 5. I mean, we know the upside with him is massive. And if he's going to be the lowest owned of like the star spin ups, because if we look at the stars right now, the spin ups across the board, obviously Jokic looks fantastic. Booker and Durant are just seeing so much run. It's like everyone's kind of flocking towards them right now because they are the whole team in offense. Embiid's up there, and Tatum's kind of sandwiched in between all of them, kind of the lowest of that group. And it'll be interesting to see if he's the same ownership percent. Is he more? Is he less? And if he comes in at less, I really like him tonight. Jaylen Brown comes in at a very cheap price tag, 8,100. We know his upside has been pretty solid. Past 3 games, I mean, he's been able to score. It's just, the games really haven't been staying close enough for him to get full run. As you can see, 30 minutes, 34. So if these games stay close, we know he has 50 plus upside. So I think it's a very, very solid play. I mean, once again, Boston's just a very, very solid team to get like 1 or 2 pieces from just because they're all pretty cheap and they all have huge upside. Like Al Horford was super aggressive last game. I don't expect him to go 5 of 7 from 3, but we know he has pretty solid upside. So it's like if he stays out of foul trouble, he's a very solid play there at 5,400 because you can stuff the stat sheet. And with these guards here, it really comes down to ownership, like Brogdon, Smart, White. I think I'd still prefer going to White out of Smart and Brogdon, but it really just comes down to ownership for me. I think all three are pretty much the same plays. It just if one's higher owned than the other two, I'd rather go to the other two because they all really have relatively the same floor and ceiling. Even though Brogdon, his minutes have been the iffiest of the bunch, but he's still been extremely productive in those minutes. So that's what I thought there with the guards. Really just comes down to ownership for me. And then coming down to Robert Williams, I like taking a shot on him tonight. The minutes haven't been great on him. Al Horford has been staying out of foul trouble, so they haven't needed him as much. He also did hurt his wrist there or arm, but it looks like he should be good to go. Keep an eye out on that. But yeah, I like taking a shot on him. We know he has huge upside, as we can see here. He got extended versus Atlanta. Obviously, a little bit better of a matchup, but he still went for 44. And he has that type of upside there in a short amount of minutes. But yeah, I think he's more of like a riskier dart throw, but I still really like him. Grant Williams should be a decent value play. Played 23 minutes. Didn't do much over 3, but we know if he hits a few threes, gets a couple rebounds, assists, block, he could easily pay off 3,500. So he looks like actually a decent value play. Still carries some risk, but he's definitely solid down there. Moving on to Philadelphia on the Philly side. I love Embiid once again. Not really sure why he was only 8% owned that last slate. Went for 61, which is fantastic. Really helped out my lineup. It was a little frustrating because obviously Jokic was pretty chalky and he went for like 85, so it didn't really help out having a low on Embiid go for 61. But we still know the upside's huge on Embiid. And I wouldn't be surprised if he has one of those games where he goes for like 20 free throws tonight and he's just super aggressive and gets fouled a ton. So I do really like Embiid. It'll be interesting to see if more people go to him just because he actually had a solid game last game. So it really just kind of depends on ownership. I love Embiid. I love Harden. I love a bounce back spot for him. I mean, he's really struggled two games in a row after having that fantastic 45 real life point game. The upside's still been solid, 32, 2 of 14, 42, 3 of 14. So it's like, even when he's been playing terrible, he's still been able to get salvage a game. So I still really like Harden there. In terms of the mid range guys, Maxey, Harris, I think they're fine. I'd prefer Maxey over Harris. But they both should be playing mid 30s minutes. If Harris stays out of foul trouble, you should see mid 30s. Maxey should see mid 30s, maybe a little bit closer to 40s if he's actually playing well. So they're both decent there in the mid range. You don't really go out of your way to play him. It's just more if you land on him, you land on him. Melton was fantastic for me last game. Obviously, he got a little bit extended just because of the foul trouble there with Tobias, but he should see anywhere from like 18 to mid 20s minutes. He has that ability to get extended. If like Tobias is in foul trouble, if Harden's in foul trouble, Maxi's in foul trouble, Melton's a main guard off the bench. He can get shots, he can get steals. Obviously, 4 steals and one block, 5 stocks is a little out of his range, but we know he has that upside. So it's like he's still an okay play there. I wouldn't jam him in like I did last night though. Tucker, more of a dart throw there, 4,000. Reed, I mean, no need to get to him. No need to get to Niang or McDaniels. It's really just kind of the main guys, and that's it. Moving on to this Denver side here. Obviously, kind of like my slate thoughts the last slate with Denver and Phoenix was that you're going to want to at least get to either one of Jokic and Murray, if not both, and one of KD and Booker, if not both. Just because of they're pretty much the 99% of each team's offense. So it's like you really want one piece of both those guys. So for this game here for the Nuggets side, Jokic, I mean, he's just been super aggressive, right? 21 in the first game shots, 30 in the second, 19 in the third. Still went for 30, 17, 17, massive triple double upside with Jokic, and he's been super aggressive. He's playing massive amounts of minutes, and these games have been staying close. And as you can see, if they stay close, if he stays out of foul trouble, he's going to see about 42 minutes. So he looks great. If you feel good with the value plays for today and want to spend up for Jokic, he looks fantastic. Murray, as mentioned, you're going to want at least one of Jokic and Murray. Obviously, it's a lot easier to get to Murray, so he might be way more popular. Maybe like 50% owned. Jokic might only be like 30. So that leaves a good amount of leverage room if you want to go to Jokic. But yeah, Murray's been fantastic. As I said, I mean they're pretty much the whole offense. Murray and Jokic. So I mean you really need to get to at least one of them. So I'm gonna throw Murray in for right now just because he's a little bit cheaper. Aaron Gordon and PJ, they're pretty much like Maxey and Tobias Harris. They are in the mid range. They're solid plays. Aaron Gordon's minutes have been solid. It's just he's not very productive because Jamal Murray and Jokic have been doing everything. But we know he is upside. Like he can go for 35 plus. It's 6,200, maybe even 40 plus if he gets a double double. So you could definitely land on him. I mean, he has that upside as we saw with MPJ. He has it as well. Stayed out of foul trouble. He hit his shots. Went for a double double, 21 and 12. So it's like they both have that upside. I slightly prefer still going to MPJ over Gordon, but it's one of those things where they're kind of like a Maxey, they're kind of like a Harris, where like usually they'll go out there and get you mid 20s fantasy points, but if they're having a solid game, they can go for 35 plus. And so it's one of those things. It's like it's hard to really predict that. It's just more of like a dart throw on who you want to go to and if they hit it. But we know all four of those players have that upside. Bruce Brown, I think is still just a solid mid range play there, 4,600. Kind of getting, usually going to get you like low 20s to maybe high 20s fantasy points. KCP, a decent, pivot play. They have been closing with him 41 minutes, 34, but he's just not been super productive. But if he goes plays 41, 44, 4,400 to mid 20s fantasy points, that's very, very solid. And that's it. I guess you could take a dart throw on Jeff Green, maybe if there's a random Jokic foul trouble, but don't feel great about that. And moving on to Phoenix here. As I mentioned, you're going to want to get to at least one of KD and Booker. I went to Booker last slate. I think I'd rather get to KD. KD's not been hitting the shots the past 2 games, 10 to 27, 12 of 31. I think he was 1 of 10 to start that game there, that last game. So it's like, we know the upside is there with KD. He's been getting off to very, very poor shooting starts. Booker has kind of been the opposite. He's been on fire, 10 of 19, 14 of 29, 20 of 25, 80%. Like, I expect Booker, I mean, he's still going to shoot the ball a ton. Don't get me wrong. But I think I slightly prefer KD because I think KD's going to, go back to the median, go back to the norm of him actually being able to hit a shot. I expect Booker to cool down a little bit, but he's been on fire, and I don't mind riding it. So it's like I slightly prefer. I love them both. As I said, going to want at least one, or if not both. You could play both of them in your lineups just because of how much of the offense they are. But I slightly prefer Durant because I think he will have a better shooting game, and I think Booker might cool off a little bit. Ayton, don't mind him as a very contrarian play in the mid range. He got benched, only played 26 minutes. Had a lot of beef with his coach and Chris Paul, but he's been in massive foul trouble every game so far going to Jokic. So it's like it's hard to trust him, but he should be coming in at very low ownership and be a very, very solid play there. That does have double upside there in the mid range. So it's like I think it could be a very sneaky play for tonight. Campaign played 30 minutes, just couldn't really hit a shot. I mean, didn't do much besides get some points, get some assists. But that's kind of all we're looking for is for him to go out there, maybe score like 10 points, maybe like 6 or 7 assists, Hopefully he gets like a rebound, maybe a steal or two, and it's like mid-20s fantasy points. I still think he's a very solid play today. They don't have much guards. They do need him out there. So if he's playing well, they will extend him a few more minutes. And now this is where it got tricky here in the mid-range. Um, Damian Lee did not play. They played Shamit 25 minutes, but he was god awful. He didn't do much. It's hard to trust him. Okoji got the start, but only played 10 minutes. Torrey Craig came off the bench, played 3 minutes, and then they went to the hot hand with TJ Warren, who played 26 minutes. So it's like, it's super hard to trust these guys. They went to Terrence Ross for 14 because if you're going to land on two, I'd say TJ Warren and Terrence Ross. It seems like they're going to come out and be aggressive and shoot the ball, but it's hard to trust the minutes because if one of them is doing bad, they're going to go to Ross. If Ross is doing bad, they're going to go TJ Warren. If they're both doing bad, they're going to go back to Shamit, Torrey Craig, Okoji. So there's just a lot going on with these guards. So it's very, very hard to trust all of them and try to get land on the right one. Jock Landale was kind of the backup center to Ayton and played a decent amount there in the second half. I don't know if we can trust that. There's just a lot of question marks here with the value for Phoenix. I don't like messing with it. If I had to land on one, it'd probably be Ross or Warren just because they seem slightly the safest. I'm assuming TJ Warren's going to be insane chalk just because he had the most minutes. He was the most productive of that group. But still, it's like they're playing alongside Katie and Booker. Unless these guys weren't missing their shots, it's not like Katie and Booker are going to give up their shots to these other guys. So it's like it's hard to trust the value there for the Phoenix side. So moving on to a fourth play here, we have campaign Kevin Durant, Jamal Murray. Who else should we throw in here? I think for right now, I'm going to throw in Tatum. Obviously, it does make the lineup a little tough to build around. 4,400 left over. As I mentioned, there's not a ton of value on the small two-game slates that you feel great about. As you can see, this mid range is not terrible, but it's like anything under 40, anything under like Melton right here is tough. You know, KCP don't feel great. Don't feel great about Robert Williams in his minutes. So it's like it's hard to build a nice lineup without taking a shot in like one of these value plays of like a Warren. But still, that only gets you 4,800, which doesn't leave you with a ton. So it might be hard to spend up for two guys in a mid range play for tonight, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, right now this is kind of the direction I like going on campaign, going with Kevin Durant, Tatum, and Murray. As I said, you're going to want at least one of, if not both, from the Denver side with Jamal Murray and Jokic, Devin Booker and KD. And it's I do really like getting into like a James Harden or Embiid, and then obviously Tatum and Brown. It's like obviously you can't play one of each from all four teams, but it's like if you try to get that, it's fantastic. So I think Boston's the easiest team to get like different pieces from just because their offense is sometimes spread out and that a lot of guys can go off and have solid games, even with Tatum and Jalen Brown kind of dominating the usage. So those are my thoughts for tonight. Hope you guys liked the video. Make sure to hit that like button. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.